In this video, I'm going to be cutting straight through the noise and slander, debunking claims levied against myself by detractors, asserting that I mishandled Mr. Goldie and that I'm an apologist, or other such lies in regard to the General Tiberius and Mr. Goldie situation that has developed since 2017, because two man-children can't seem to get a fucking room and let this fucking die. Now, while that may be the case in my own personal opinion, the truth of the matter is that the videos that I have prior made addressing this are outdated, privated, or no longer exist. So consider this the updated version of the record. Now, I will also be taking time to expose the individuals who I believe are opportunistic, pathological liars, that Goldie may, in fact, still get away with everything, and that everybody else involved is a morally bankrupt person whose conduct and accountability is flawed. Back in 2017, the friend group was me, Marshall, Zoe, and General Tiberius. Goldie was 15. As one of Tiberius's former friends from the era, I'm uniquely qualified to say he and Goldie have hit each other for 9 years straight. The animosity is not new, and Tiberius has a long pattern of never doing his own dirty work and instead finds attack dogs to run at whoever he decides is the target for the day. Enter Speederton. At the time, what we actually knew was Goldie was harassing our mutuals, and then Tiberius broke off in the group and went rogue. He then started threatening, harassing, doxing, and most importantly, even doctoring evidence against Mr. Goldie, which obviously muddied the waters. The rest of us, myself included, may have criticized Goldie quite heavily, but we also criticized Tiberius in a live stream called Talking About Things which no longer exist, but essentially was the litmus test for what a rash, impulsive, and emotional J-op, and how not to do what Tiberius pulled, being an internet vigilante, because what that does is hand him a permanent victim narrative and a potential legal loophole. Because if your stated goal is to hold Goldie accountable, it is poisoning the well and antithetical to what you claim, because he will get off on a technicality. The reality in 2017 was the case on Goldie, as I stated prior, was muddied, scant, circumstantial, or outright fabrications made by Tiberius, which definitely doesn't make the situation any easier. Also, I want to mention that the genuinely damning material that exists on Goldie now still only came together years later, which casts 2017 in a different light. But as hindsight, you have to judge people on what they knew, what they did with it at the time, and that is the point of fact. Now, this isn't me saying Goldie's a good person, far from it. It's that both he and the loudest detractors of his are approaching this in ways that are unethical and unserious. Now, for Tiberius specifically, he has carried a chip on his shoulder because his former friends called out his behavior in 2017, and so the Accountability Crusader Act that he puts on now is merely a soapbox that completely leaves out the context that he deleted his old apology and got caught repeating the same playbook many years later. It's still an optics nightmare either way, so it's copium to think either will change. By 2019, Tiberius had become bedfellows with known child predators and their orbiters, specifically Ryber 99 and Agent Marco 96, which there's a playlist in the description below if you want context on that. But the most relevant point that you'll hear is that Ryan Co. knew what Tiberius did in his past. I told them that was prior to the context of us having a falling out from 2018 into 2019, when I found out that they were literally keeping a child predator with child porn or CSAM material at their fucking hip, and they called my friend a sexual abuser and treated everybody like pieces of shit, and just used people for their own ends. But of course, there's more to it, and obviously that context is not exactly, relevant for this particular discussion. And he will say that he never was working with Agent Markle at any point, but that's not exactly true. There's literal archives I put together, which are audio logs of Aaron Markle himself saying that he told Tiberius about the whole thing to run interference so that I wouldn't effectively make a video back in 2020 about them, calling them out for all this nonsense. Tiberius thusly has also clung to 2017 because he has dick and all to say about me and those that I am tangentially who are either acquaintances or friends of mine. He has hilariously still continued to try to guilt me by association for matters that he, in his perception, felt that he has some misgivings for, such as that I didn't cut Zoe off and that he's a rat and a weasel. But there's literally a video from July 2017 he knew about, 2 years before the riot situation really started to kick off in late 2019, where effectively I cut Zoe off and I criticize him. And then there's the Samantha art drama that he weighs around, and that boils down to someone with very selective morals about credit and permission. I did call that hypocrisy and theft. But in isolation, with Tiberius's framing, it does look like an endorsement of worse things. But in context, is him collapsing everything into one blob so he can pretend that nuance or criticizing someone's behavior means co-signing everything they have ever done. And that is, of course, why guilt by association is not a fucking argument. If you understand that much about that situation, the irony is obvious. The same guy is now bloviating and trying to smear or ostracize me with associational opinions, because to them, I was supposedly too soft and Goldie, are in reality willfully overlooking Tiberius's actions, the guy who spent years defending people arguably worse than Goldie himself. These are the same asshats who pretend it's above their pay grade, or I won't spot the red herring, in attempts to try to derail the conversation at hand. So, when you see people like Speederton moralize, remember, he will overlook basic due diligence. He's not on the side of accountability, it's just straight up embarrassing. But we are not done, because there are all blood sports and no principles. As an aside, you literally had doctored photos Tiberius gave you in your video. Maybe exercising scrutiny next time would help. Just a thought, dumbass. And another thing, you need to stop treating this like your personal entertainment. The truth's hard to hear, I know. I just deliver what you will not, and victims deserve better. Did you even consider how they felt, dragging them into this shit against their wishes and saying you would censor things? I thought not. This is exactly the clown shit I'm talking about. That in itself lies a question how these people are this mentally stunted and corrupted at the root. Speederton would have a better chance dipping Tiberius's balls in his mouth like Lipton tea than having any moral values, but truth be told on the matter, he's merely a cynical, edgy opportunist. It's never been about principle. So, more on Goldie. Let's be crystal clear. Goldie is a freak. He admitted to harassment, shitty behavior to multiple people, manipulating Clara into giving the Discord login info to her account, claimed he had access to CSAM in there, used redactive and tampered evidence, nearly showed up to Clara's address for what I can really only imagine was the intent to traffic an underage girl. I should add that over the years, he kept talking about how he lost friends, and he continued to suicide bait people, he mentioned that he had cancer to get sympathy, and so on. Goldie's very notorious for constantly trying to pull people into his shit, something he and Tiberius have in common, at least. However, back on Goldie, he would spam Discord friend requests, dragged us into calls, like the one with me and Clara that Speederton used, recording us without knowing consent, and asking to edit a Wikitubia page, which, to be frank, just so you know, I couldn't because I got temp banned by the dumb recolor retards of Ryan Co. because I riffed on them a little too much. I criticized Clara as well in this situation, and I never approved of his relationship with Goldie either. Speederton is a lot like Tiberius, though. They think guilt by association is an argument, but again, the distinction is he was ignorant but knows Tiberius' past now, and as clarification for the record, the line Speederton fixates on, of me saying, thanks for bringing this to my attention, I'll talk to them, is literally just basic due diligence. If you think a polite, I'll go speak to the people involved is meat riding, that asking questions is somehow comparable to your misconduct I've outlined, then by your logic, by hitching your wagon to Tiberius of all people, taking them at face value along with the version of events, I could say, if anything, you're Tiberius dick rider. For a commentator cretin posturing about morals, this is a two-way street. If you apply the logic to me, you'll have to apply it to yourself and your buddies too, no exceptions. It's funny that you actually fucking sat there tiptoeing around how you have to be careful with your words because of demonetization, and use obvious sensationalist titles, even confess that your motive and intentions aren't what you state they are. I at least stick to my standards no matter what it costs me, and that's the difference between us. But anyways, on Clara, yet again, she climbed up on her soapbox too, to moralize about associations as well. And just like everybody else, she was fine doctoring fake accounts and evidence. Though when I caught her in DMs, she basically outed Tiberius as the mastermind behind the whole thing. And then everything snapped into place. He did the same shit again. Because guess what? He never fucking learns. Color me fucking surprised. So let's spell this out. Nobody in this chain, not Speederton, Tiberius, Carr, or Goldie are moral paragons. They're either grifters, dishonest, or in the case of Goldie, a predator at the very least. Finally, we get to the current era. Based on new information gleaned by victims through a log request, I would report Goldie to Czech authorities, NCMEC, due to it being international crimes dealing with different countries, jurisdictions, and telling victims to consider going to local precincts to report it, given we didn't have the luxury of that information back then. Victims can testify and verify my account on this, and then some, as I explain further. One thing I must add, however, is as victims told me that forcing the issue and bringing it to bear, it comes off as public sabotage against efforts considered carefully behind closed doors with their knowledge and consent to get actual accountability. Now, as you all know, it's out in the open to these dipshits, thus the point I made is that it poisons a potential jury pool, create an unnecessary legal technicality, and wasn't a choice made with the victim's consideration. They expressed in equal measure that he also doesn't understand Goldie, and that Speederton did not protect victims at all, like he had stated. He only just put a fucking spotlight on them to get harassed. He even got a lot wrong in terms of the critical fucking details, as I have shown throughout this video, including the fact that a victim had told me that she had only been peer pressured into an ERP with him. It wasn't some secret relationship with Goldie. The other issue is that Tiberius triangulated through and harassed my friends by proxy, like Patrick, about the Goldie issue. Tiberius just passes the fucking buck to anyone who will orate his resentments since 2017, to a point I literally had to make a community post recently telling him to fuck off, which just shows how pathetic he is, and that, just as I mentioned before, is another thing he continues to do to this day. In fact, I'll pass off to Patrick to explain his perspective and reconvene afterward to give my thoughts.
Hey guys, I'm Pat, or a regular, or the retard who dwells in the darkness, whatever the fuck you want to call me. I don't give a shit. Now, today I'm going to give you my testimony and feelings on this matter. We need to dismantle a years-long campaign of harassment, manipulation, and historical revisionism orchestrated by an individual known as Tiberius. For years, Tiberius has flooded my direct messages, adopting the guise of a victim and throwing infantile tantrums simply because his actions were finally subjected to rigorous accountability. He claimed that my friend, King, had committed a grave injustice against him, inflicting profound personal harm. However, once you strip away the subterfuge, the underlying reality is clear. Tiberius commissioned an operative named to illicitly obtain the docs of a minor known as Goldie, who we're discussing in this video and is the main topic, subsequently disseminating that sensitive, compromising information to third parties on Google Hangouts. Instead of taking responsibility for creating a manifest danger to a minor, Tiberius chose to launch a protracted, vindictive grievance campaign. To comprehend the depth of this machination, we must examine how I initially encountered Tiberius. I was introduced to him via a Discord mutual known as AJ Markle. At the time, AJ Markle was actively masquerading as the primary lieutenant for Rai 99, a documented predator. Tiberius now issues categorical denials, claiming he maintained no friendship with Rai. That defense is entirely irrelevant. The evidence demonstrates that Tiberius provided surrogate support to him through AJ Markle. Shortly after, King recognized the deceptions, cut ties with both AJ Markle and Rai 99, and acted on behalf of the victims. Tiberius chose to retaliate by launching a relentless campaign of harassment against King. Me, feeling utterly exhausted by the ceaseless badgering from Tiberius and AJ Markle, and then discovering their true malicious characters, I chose to defect. I chose to align myself firmly with King and provide resolute support to the actual victims of Rai. After years of persistence and patience, we exposed Rai and his supporters, although the embers of the recolor community still persist to this day, inconveniencing me and King. Now we've been perpetually sidetracked from plans to hold perpetrators accountable because of these retards. I falsely assumed my interactions with Tiberius had reached a final conclusion a while back. Instead, Tiberius utilized a surrogate on Discord to continuously fixate on the 2017 incident involving Goldie, presenting what he characterized as definitive evidence. I informed this proxy that I would evaluate my options, yet Tiberius lacked the discipline to remain uninvolved. He directly interjected himself into my YouTube community post to provoke an adversarial confrontation with Goldie. Compounding this, he presumed to speak on my behalf without my explicit consent, falsely informing Goldie that I was actively pursuing him. I never consented to this, nor did I authorize him to weaponize my name. On Discord, I demanded he desist. The specific brand of reckless impetuosity is precisely why I sever contact. He is an obstinate individual who lacks the capacity to fucking stop. Tiberius, you have the audacity to castigate King, claiming he failed Clara, quote-unquote. You criticize King for not penalizing Goldie, historically, alleging that King lacked comprehensive intelligence. This is a glaring logical fallacy, as neither did you with Ryan A.J. Markle. You cannot reprimand King for an inability to abandon the 2017 narrative when you remain utterly consumed by it to this day, you fucking retard. Tiberius claims that in our eyes, him being accountable is meaningless. Naturally, it appears that way to him because he is incorrigible and pathologically mendacious. He pledged to disengage and allow us to manage the situation. Unlike him, we executed a legitimate, structured response. We established direct coordination with the victims, we systematically compiled an exhaustive evidentiary dossier, and then King officially executed a formal police report. We pursued lawful institutional recourse. However, because Tiberius is blinded by a personal vendetta to extract retribution against Goldie, his capricious interference has created a severe liability. Goldie can now potentially evade accountability on a procedural technicality. Furthermore, the victims explicitly requested anonymity regarding this matter for critical personal and professional reasons, which Tiberius and Speederton neglected to respect. By persisting with this public crusade, Tiberius has actively exposed these vulnerable individuals to unnecessary harmful scrutiny. All because Tiberius can't help but preach factually deficient propaganda, which he has been known to do for years. Months later, his malicious persistence continued as he harassed my associates regarding Goldie. Now he has stopped to a new nadir by recruiting an opportunistic, provocative contrarian, Speederton, to publish half-assed videos targeting Goldie. These videos rely fundamentally on some manipulated evidence. It completely omits the vital context and pertinent nuances of the actual events. Let this be an unequivocal notice to the community and to Tiberius himself. Contrary to your insufferable delusions of omniscience, you do not possess the complete narrative. Your evidence is profoundly deficient, and your cycle of arrogance gets terminated today. Tiberius, you are a fucking liar. You said you'd move on and let us handle it, but you couldn't keep your word. I hope you're happy with yourself, because you pissed off everybody with this. You don't know what you're doing. I made that abundantly clear before, but your ignorance knows no bounds. You've lost all credibility and respect from us, the victims of the Goldie situation, and the victims of the Rye situation. Do us all a favor and promptly go fuck yourself. Goodbye and never come back.
Basically, if Speederton still wants to grandstand about video quality standards or morality, it's white noise.
To Mr. Goldie, if you see this, end your Minecraft game for everybody. It's probably the best thing you could do. Fucking guy, am I right? This guy. I'm not gonna say what I want him to happen to him, but I don't even know. I do know, but I just don't want to say it. I want his Minecraft game to be ended. Goldie, you are a pervert. You are a predator. Honestly, you deserved to be doxxed because we knew nothing about you. You were...
If anything, he demonstrated what a tribalist, bottom-feeding, opportunist commentator goon he is, and it shows in how he bossed this entire ordeal. I'm not taking sides with this, I'm just pointing out the truth. I really don't care in particular if any of you want to hear this. It isn't all about you pretentious, sniveling douchebags. So let it be the lesson of fucking around and finding out. If belies this proverbial verbal waterboarding, you literally can't get any facts straight. Next time, maybe don't come at me at all. Anyways, with that said, my name is King Excalibur. I'll see you next time.